So now I go to Richard Walker, and I think it's Bring the Pain. He'll tell me, he'll get me right. These youngsters always get you right. It's good to see them pick up the baton. There was a time when the baton was dropped, you didn't have anybody to pick it up. Now you got hands coming from everywhere trying to pick the baton up. So we've got Richard Walker on the line with us. Richard, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Well,
And speaking of hard to follow, speaking of yourself, the legend himself, the one and only Godfather of Radio, it's a pleasure to be on with you today.
Well, I thank you for all the accolades and all that good stuff, but I want you to tell these people something about yourself, first of all. What's the name of your site?
It's Bring the Pain Sports. We actually broadcast out of the West Coast on KCAA Radio's 102.3 FM in Loma Linda, Riverside, California. But we don't limit ourselves there. We're all over the place. We're based out of Houston, of course. You know, Houston, homegrown, home-fed, homebred. But we're all over the place.
Where are you from in Houston? Sunnyside, I hope?
I'm born and raised South Park.
South Park?
South Park, Sterling High School.
Okay, well, you're a cousin. You're a worthy cousin. Okay. And how long have you been involved in broadcasting sports?
We're actually this is year number 7 of Bring the Pain Sports. So we got this cracked off right about 2013.
And what led you to try this?
Well, actually, one of the people who inspired me along the way is the man that I'm speaking to right now, yourself. I wrapped up doing, trying myself to get to the NFL at a very late age, and playing semi-pro football. A couple of my teammates are involved with me as well. Mitchell Brock is my host. He was the center. I was the left tackle. We played for Haywood Jeffries.
Right.
When he coached us as the Bay Area Pearland Gamblers. We played minor league football together for many years, and so when I got done playing, I had to figure out what I was going to do next, and I've always had this itch to do production and stuff like that, and then, of course, with a background in sports, it was sort of a natural progression to the next thing. So, but you were one of the first people that was there to, open doors for me and make opportunities for me, and when things were rough, you were the one to say, no, keep pushing, you got to keep doing this, it's not going to always be easy. So we're here today basically as a result of you.
Well, I thank you for the accolades again. And was John Boyd involved with that team?
Who's that?
John Boyd. Was he involved
No.
with that? He wasn't involved with that team. Okay,
No,
okay.
he wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, but Haywood was. Okay. Now, the other
Yeah.
thing, you've been watching what's happening closely.
Yeah. Oh,
I know you've been watching it closely. And anytime you've got the the president involved with trying to get people to play football, you have to take a long look at how safe it is. So I'm going to ask you just to share with us your thoughts on what's happening right now with the Power 5 conferences and the SWAC making an early call not to play football but to wait till the spring. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I'm going to start with the SWAC because I thought you made an excellent point about Dr. McClellan and all the great guys at the SWAC making the decision to pull the plug early. And, knowing Dr. McClellan and knowing how he operates and, all of the good men at the SWAC, they're not concerned about revenue. They're concerned about what's best for the overall health of their players. They're concerned about the overall direction of the program itself. They're not going to, do a season just for the sake of, having something on the field and having, TV broadcasts and having games in the stands. That's not what they're about. So, they take the more integral approach of, okay, this isn't going to work. We're not going to try to force a square peg into a round hole. Let's go ahead and pull the plug early so that we can worry about, trying to get everyone ready for the spring, which I definitely think is the right answer. On the other hand, you have these big programs, and I use this moniker when I talk about the NCAA. I call it the National Cash Allocation Alliance because that's what it's all about. It's all about the big dollar bills. It's all about the money. It's all about putting 100,000 people in the stands on these weekends and getting these student athletes to get out there and perform for them so that they can bring in these millions and millions of dollars of revenue.
So you're not surprised when you have a $6 million, $8, $10, $11 million coach saying he's trying to get his team out on the field. He thinks they should play. Are you any more surprised than a group of the players now, wanting demanding a look at the safety issues.
Well, I'm proud of the players for standing up for themselves because, we've always known that, we've known it, but we never seen, the players exercise their power. They are what makes the NCAA engine go. There is no NCAA sports, period, across the board without the players. You can remove any other component except the players, and it will still function as normal. You can, replace coaches, you can replace administrators, but you take those players out of there, you have nothing. And I'm glad and I'm proud that these young men and women are starting to stand up for themselves and realize what their value is and, looking out for their own interests because at the end of the day, if something happens to one of those players, the NCAA isn't concerned about that. They're going to plug someone else in their spot and keep moving forward. So an example of that is our U of H, Cedric Williams, for example. He contracted COVID earlier this year, and now he's having heart issues.
Yes.
So, thank God it's not anything serious, but the COVID that he contracted did cause some heart issues, and he opted out this season so he can take care of himself. But these young folks are definitely doing the right thing by stepping up and standing up for themselves, and making it be known that they're not going to be pushed around by the NCAA. So I hope they continue to push. Every time that the NCAA tries to take advantage of them and not factor their needs into it, they need to push back.
Now. And then we go back to something else that happened that I think is playing a key part in all of this, of course. The murder of George Floyd, what role, in your opinion, what role has it played in these stands being made by these young student athletes?
Well, I think it was a moment of awakening because when you see that this man, may or may not have been accused of a crime, that's not the issue. But when you see just looking at that video, it was a microcosm of how little Black lives matter in this country, where this officer could kneel on this man's neck for almost 9 minutes, look into the camera, and had his hands in his pocket and had no concern whatsoever about not only the well-being of Mr. Floyd, but he didn't care about what repercussions would come from it because, in his opinion at the time, and he might have been right at the time, there were no repercussions because this happens all the time. Young black men and women are being, abused by police, and there's no repercussions for it. So these young student athletes see this and say, "Hey, wait a minute, that could be me. I could be the one. I could be the next George Floyd. I could be the next Sandra Bland. I could be the next Philando Castile, etc." So they realize that they not only that could be them, but they also realize that power that they have. They have a platform now, and social media has been a true game changer. Now these student athletes, a lot of them, have thousands of Twitter followers and Instagram followers, for example. So they have a platform to stand up for themselves, to stand up for others now. So they're using it, and I think that's a great thing that they're doing.
Okay, and as you look at it, even Oprah Winfrey, who's always on the cover of a magazine, she changed it up this month.
Yeah.
And
Oprah has a vested interest. She's switching back to Team Black now because just last year, she didn't say a word about Harvey Weinstein,
right.
But yet she's going to produce documentaries about R. Kelly. She's going to, join in with Gayle King about, going after Snoop Dogg when he made comments about, her asking questions about Kobe Bryant right after he died, asking about his rape trial, but neither one of them said anything about Harvey Weinstein. So it's too late for you to switch up over. You already lost your cookout invite, and you're not coming back.
And once again, I'm talking to Richard Walker, and we're talking about a number of things that are happening in the world of sports right now. And the other thing, do you in your lifetime, I don't think it'll happen in mine, do you think there will ever be a fair playing field in the hiring of head black coaches on the collegiate football level?
That's a good question. In my lifetime?
Yeah, in your lifetime.
Hopefully we'll start to see a trend in it, in that direction. Will it ever be fair? I honestly don't know. Because the NCAA, and not just them, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, NBA, all of them.
Right.
They do enough on the surface to make it look like they're showing interest. Like you see now, some of the coaches and some of the teams are starting to quote unquote, speak out on social justice. They painting the Black Lives Matter on the fields and on the floors and wearing T-shirts and all that good stuff. Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice gesture. But I'm more interested in the statutes instead of the statues, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
These people have the same type of political influence to get stadiums built, to get laws changed so that they're able to do things in certain cities. When I see that these leagues are taking those connections and using them to create, a platform to change laws on our behalf, then I'll be convinced that they're interested in doing something on behalf of the black community. As far as I'm concerned, they're trying to pacify us. They're trying to pander to, the popular thing right now is to, quote unquote, join the movement. But I haven't seen a single one of them saying, hey, if you don't change your laws in this state, if you don't change the stand your ground laws, if you don't change the racial gerrymandering laws, if you don't change these laws that makes it very easy for you to go in and gentrify black neighborhoods. Until I see that, and they have the power to do that and say, hey, if you don't do that and make these changes, we're going to move the Super Bowl from your city. We're going to move the Final Four from your city. Because they've done it for other causes, but they haven't done it for us.
Right.
So until I see that they get involved and do that, then as far as I'm concerned, they're just throwing us a bone.
You had recently Ed Oliver was pulled over and was charged with a DUI, DWI, whatever, and then the charges were dropped. And for people who've never been there, I had that to happen to me years ago, a couple of decades ago. So what I said, just let me get out of these handcuffs and get out of here, and I will battle this. I had to go to court 5 times. I tested positive. I tested negative. Really, it was on the borderline, right? I remember it like it was last night. One of the most normally on a Saturday I would stay out late. I had one beer. Watched the Mike Tyson's comeback fight, first comeback after he had been to prison. So I knew so I took this test, came out kind of borderline, but I really shouldn't have been handcuffed or locked up. But anyway, it took me 5 times, and I had the same lawyer each time. Every time we go to court, the first time it was 5 years probation and all this kind of stuff. Then the last time they got it where they were some kind of miscellaneous type case or misdemeanor or whatever, but I wanted to be told that I was innocent, and and I had to go before the judge, and they were calling the jury in because I told them I wanted a jury trial. And my lawyer at the time said, hey man, this sounds good, we ought to just go on and plea on this. And I said, well, it looks like I'm going to have to go outside and get me another lawyer to defend myself. No.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So I didn't give up.
Yeah.
So you see Ed Oliver, and in about 10 minutes later, the judge calls me up in front of the court and say the charge is dismissed, Mr. Cooper. All charges dismissed. Then he pulls me to the side and said something positive to me about manhood and asked me would I help him with his boot camp. But anyway, to make a long story short, Ed Oliver has indicated that he's going to fight what happened to him. And then you've got people out there who are telling him just to leave it alone. And I saw what you wrote, and I'm the same way. My thing is, if you know you're innocent, don't make one of those plea deals and get caught up in that system.
Yes.
Where you are hampered for the rest of your life, and you're young.
Right.
Go ahead.
And, in your situation, Ralph, you were the exception to the rule because, to be honest, the systemic problem is that we don't have the same type of financial resources to hire legal representation, people that know the law. But one of the things that stood out to me immediately with Ed Oliver's case was when I got the video from Montgomery County Police Department. I posted. I was like, I'm not even a cop,
right.
But even I know something wasn't right about that field sobriety video.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was just the way that they did the whole field sobriety test
Right.
was wrong to begin with. And of course, you know, I have a good friend of mine, Brian Garris. He's a great defense attorney. I said, hey man, look at this. Tell me what you think. He laughed at it.
Yeah.
He laughed at it. He's like, this is not the legal procedure. They had the light below his nose, and they're shining the light. So I said, oh well, you know, your eyes aren't following.
Right.
You know, there's procedures that go with that. But you know, going back to my point though, you know, you were the ones who stood up for yourself. But for every Ralph Cooper who gets charged, who goes to court, who stands up for themselves, who goes through the process, who pays the money, because you had to pay your lawyers to go to court over and over again. For every Ralph Cooper, there's probably 10 others that don't, that accept the plea charge, that take the Class B, Class A misdemeanor, whatever the charge may be, or plea out. And, you know, you saw your attorney was trying to do that. Right. So now you have a record and you're part of the system. And it limits opportunities, it limits housing, it limits employment, it limits educational opportunities, etc. So this is part of that caste system that they have in place, where I could just go around as a police officer, pick people off the street, throw them in jail. They get charged. They don't have the ability to fight back. So even if it's not what I charged them with initially, they're going to have something on their record, and then it just starts to snowball from there.
Yep.
But Ed is definitely right for fighting this, and I'm proud of him for standing up. And you know, I hope he makes an example of those people there in Montgomery County. He blew a 0.0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He didn't have any alcohol in his system. It was 0.0.
That's what and I'm glad to see him fighting it, because, like I say, I had one beer, and normally I would be in the devilment on a Saturday night. It was one of the cleanest nights I had. And I got pulled off. If you understand, well, the law had.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
Let me. The other thing, high school football, with talk of closing, shutting down the colleges. We'll just deal with the state of Texas. Well, you can deal with any of them you want to. Do you think high school football should be shut down?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell us why.
You know, it's already a stretch to bring these students back to class. You know, we've seen, I think it was Georgia that brought their students back last week, and they're already having outbreaks. Let's be honest. You know, students, you know, high school and even below, middle school, you know, elementary, et cetera, they're not the most careful people to begin with. So you're trying to tell a bunch of people who, as a group, aren't as socially responsible as us as an adult, to practice safe social distancing, to wear their masks, to properly sanitize themselves in a large, and then they're herding into large groups. And they're in these large groups in a class for an hour and a half a day. You know, on campus, they're there anywhere from 8 to 10 hours per day, and longer if they go to practice, etc. How do you expect for there not to be a COVID problem when you got people herded in those groups for such an extended period of time? It doesn't make sense. There's no reward for having high school football or high school sports this fall, period.
Okay. And in ending, just off the top of your head, I'll throw this question at you. Name me someone in sports right now that you enjoy watching.
Oh, man. Well, football, I have to say Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that kid is it's just scary to think that he's quote-unquote raw.
Yeah.
Like, this is the beginning of what we're going to see. He's going to, you know, hone himself. He's going to become more well-versed on reading defenses. He's going to be more accurate at some point. He's going to learn the system that he's in more. He's going to get more familiar with the players that he's with. He's going to get more familiar with his opponents and what he isn't able to do. And he's 22 years old. I mean, you know, he really doesn't have his quote-unquote grown man body yet. So his potential is off the charts. And, you know, he could basically retire and be at least in the conversation for a Hall of Fame spot right now. So just imagine where he's going to be 5, 7, 10 years from now.
And you're at Sterling High School product. Give me an individual from Sterling that had an impact on who you've become.
Well, of course, you know, without a doubt, it had to be Clyde. I mean, Clyde is the gold
Clyde
standard
Drexler.
for Sterling.
Yeah.
Clyde Drexler. Yeah. Clyde's the gold standard for Sterling athletics. You know, we had also Zena Garrison.
Right.
You know, came out of Sterling as well. And you know, my brother played with Clyde when he was on the 1981 team. My brother graduated a year before Clyde, but he graduated and they played basketball.
Tell everybody who your brother was.
Al Walker. And Al turned out to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. What was his What was his name as a wrestler?
He goes by Ray Walker.
Okay.
And he was with the Rock and Farouk in Nation of Domination. He was one of the bodyguards for the Nation of Domination.
Okay, and then we lost a big icon, Kamala passed.
Yes.
You don't remember Kamala, do you?
I was a huge fan, and not only was I a huge fan,
Yes.
we were going to go interview Kamala down in Mississippi in 2017, but unfortunately, right before we were able to go, he had a medical emergency, and he got rushed to the hospital.
Yes.
And he spent like over a month in the hospital. We never reconnected, of course, but I had a chance to talk to him on the phone multiple times, and he was just an outgoing guy. Like, he didn't even know me that well, and we had long conversations, and we talked about our children, and we talked about life, and he was telling me so many great stories about being in the ring and being coached up by Jerry the King Lawler, and all the great traveling stories on Mid-South Wrestling, talk about Bad News Brown, and some of the things that happened while they were on the road. But I hate that I wasn't able to capture that. But I mean, I was on the phone with the guy for like almost an hour just talking, and like he hardly even knew me. So that's just an example of the type of person that he is.
And again, right. And again, Richard, tell people how they can find you. Richard Walker, how can they find you on the podcast and whatever you youngsters are doing everything now, from Instagram and by the time I learned how to Facebook and Twitter, you all, thanks to Craig Shelton, and then you all have gone now to Zooming and Skype, or what is it, Skyping or whatever y'all doing. Go ahead.
All over the place. All over the place.
Yes.
So the easiest way to find all of our social networks is go to our webpage, which is btpsportstalk.com.
Do it again.
It's btpsportstalk.com.
Okay.
Bring the pain. btpsportstalk.com. You'll see our articles on there. We love to write.
Right.
So our articles on there, our Twitter handles on there, as well as our links to our YouTube page and our Facebook group. If you haven't, join the group. We love to talk sports in the group. We talk sports all day in the group. As a matter of fact, Saturday, before the story even broke, our own Mitchell Brock had got word that the Big Ten was going to cancel, and he posted that in the group. So if you were in our group, you knew about it Saturday instead of today.
Right. Hey, again, I want to thank you. I'll get back with you. Thank you. Keep up the good work and all that good stuff. And thank you. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Richard Walker, we thank him.